Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Well, it's Friday, it's 5 to 5, and that means that the doors to the Rambling Club are open once again. Hello everyone, my name is Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Allan Lear.
And we're just putting away some of the old presidential sporting equipment, aren't we, Allan? Because end of season, so everything in the village is calming down now, isn't it?
That's right. We're putting away his old judo trophies. I've got his old black belt here. And this is actually something that he genuinely used to have by his front door all the time in London, which is a hurling stick. I have no idea if he ever hurled or if it was merely for beating off the many burglars that infest Edgware, but he did have by his front door a wooden hurling stick every time he went to visit.
Strangely not surprised it was there.
He was into his obscure sports, wasn't he? He wasn't so much a football or a cricket fan, but if it involved getting sweaty and throwing people around or hitting people with a stick, he was all over it.
He was absolutely a fan of that, yes. So, but of course, at this time of year, there's not an awful lot to do with this stuff. So we just Al, there's the door. Do you mind grabbing that while I sort this netting out?
Yes, certainly. Hello, can I help you?
Hello. Hello, I'm Jo Caulfield. I'm not quite sure why I'm at your door.
Oh.
I've been told to come here and knock at the door, but I don't really know why.
Oh, that's a strange thing. Well, I suppose as you've knocked at the door, why not come inside and we'll see if we can work out what's going on.
Lovely, thank you.
Here you go. So, well, Jo, as you can see, Allan was saying just earlier on, we were talking about all of this sporting equipment that we've got here, and not being someone who's particularly interested in sport, but apparently you are organising something for the village five-a-side and possibly getting Tony involved in some way?
What we need a referee.
Right.
But also, I started to organise five-a-side and then realised I don't really like organising other people because they behave badly and people are late and they never do what they're told. So I would rather, if I could arrange with Tony, we'll just say abandon it and we'll just go off and have a nice chat somewhere. And they can play football if they want. I've done as much organising as I'm willing to do now.
I think that sounds like a very sensible idea, don't you?
Yeah.
Eminently reasonable, I think.
I think so. Well, we could leave them to it. And, Jo, normally at around this time on a Friday, we give the old bingo machine a whirl and go for a ramble myself, Allan and I. I don't suppose you'd like to come with us. And
I love a walk. Love it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, in that case, let's give the machine a whirl and see where we end up. Off we go.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. And thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Well, here we are in the great outdoors with our guest president, Jo Caulfield, and our first set of numbers this week. And those numbers are
7, 0, 7.
707. 707. And that means the first subject this week is education, research, and related topics. Okay. Jo, are you someone who's still keen to learn? Because some people sort of feel that learning is something that you do in an educational only sense. But are you someone who has that drive to learn stuff for the sake of it?
I think if you don't have a lot of education, which I don't, because I left school at 17 thinking, I feel I've learnt enough now. I'll just go into the world. So I think you're always slightly thinking, am I an idiot? I should maybe learn things. You are completely convinced that everybody who went to university must know a lot more than you. And no matter how many times you meet people who've been to university and you go, oh, they seem like an idiot, it's in the back of your mind going, I've got to catch up. There's still too many things that I don't know. So I do like learning things, but I'm also, I would say, I am not a completist. So I can be interested in something and then go, do you know what? That's enough now. We can move on. I've tried learning languages. And I think it is very true that unless you learn when you're young, because any French I did at school, that's in there, isn't it? Like what you learn young is there. And now rudimentary Italian and Spanish. But I've done the apps, and I think I did Duolingo, and I think that's meant for much younger people because there was a lot of questions about how my abuela is. And my abuela is long dead and will not be coming into the conversation. And there's a lot of talk of going to parties and how many books are at the Universitat. And again, I only go to parties if I can't avoid it, and I don't really care what's going on in the Universitat. But I know I'm definitely open to knowledge, and I like things where you'll also learn something as you go. So I might read or watch something because I don't like. I go, oh, do I want to read an actual history book? Or do I want to read an historical novel set in the period I would like to learn about? Or would I like to have two men who are quite amusing tell me about history, like the Rest is History podcast? That seems an easier way. Although actually I think listening to podcasts, you don't retain any of the information. I think in my brain anyway, sadly, I think it needs to do what teachers said, which is to look at it on a page and write things out in order to actually get it into my brain.
Yeah.
I think with podcasts, you tend to be doing something else as well at the same time, don't you? Which I don't think lends itself to retaining any information.
I think that is the thing. I might I'm going to do some cleaning, or I'm walking up somewhere. And also you have that moment where you go, oh, I didn't actually listen to the last 5 minutes. My brain's gone somewhere else. So I found, although I thought, well, I've done that. Like I've done a course on it. I've done that in Rest of History, but yet I know nothing about it. So then you have to sort of go back and go, well, maybe I will have to read a book and see those words. And also I found that with Kindles. I don't know if you're saying history on Kindle is very bad because often there's diagrams and family trees, and I find that very difficult in Kindle. And then I go, now I need to go back to the second chapter to see who those people were, and I find that much harder in a Kindle than an actual physical book. I think is easier to get into my brain. Although because I travel a lot, I'm always taking Kindle.
No, I have found that recently when I could read all sorts through Wikipedia. I'm a great one for just, following the links on Wikipedia to all sorts of things. But when I actually recently read a book, which was on Kenneth Graham, who wrote The Wind in the Willows.
Yeah.
And I can remember loads about that because there's a formality of now I will read a book. Whereas a screen, it doesn't feel like a commitment at all, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes it's a way in though, isn't it? Like watching something and then going, oh, now I'd like to learn about that. I may go to a book because I do, maybe young brains are different. Maybe they're, but for me, it's physically holding the book, seeing that page even, that I can remember all that information on the page and looking. And even when I'm doing my own stuff, like even though I've written like a stand-up show, I'll write out points. I'll go to remember. I still have to write out like a set list, physically put that down. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to go in my head. Even if I might record myself and listen to it because I thought that might work. And I went, no, because my mind just drifts off. It's again, pen and paper, putting it down, making that connection.
I was thinking that recently. I directed a friend of mine, and he did a one-person show, and it was a solid hour, It's a lot of work.
Oh, that's a lot of learning.
Really? But I thought that, surely it must be exactly the same for you. As a stand-up, you've got to get that hour of, words in your head in basically the right order. How do you actually do that? Do you have a process, or is it just repetition that gets it in there?
It is repetition, but I say I'm writing out a list, so I have them in lumps, Here's jokes about traveling. Here's jokes about the husband. Here's jokes about friends I hate. Here's, all in lumps together. But I think I see them in lumps as well. So when I'm on stage, I can see that piece of paper in my head of them there. And then I do a connection thing where I go, so you finish that, which makes you think of this. So if I've made the connection in my head, then that will make it easier for me to remember. I do remember a comedian. He doesn't do it now. I think he was a very funny character, Simon Fox, which wasn't his real name, because he was a big one for learning. So he learnt how to do magic, and then he became a comedian. And then he was fed up with having to pay plumbers. So then he learnt plumbing. And then he needed a solicitor. So he did a law degree. Just like, I'll learn how to do that. But he told me some sort of one of those memory things. How do you remember? And he goes, well, you have your set list as a room. And in this room is this. And it was so complicated that I thought, well, I am never going to remember the memory thing that you're trying to tell me. It seems really overcomplicated. So in my head, I just go, why does that joke make you think of the next joke? And then also, what's really annoying is sometimes you forget a routine that you really like. Because I always thought subconsciously maybe my brain was going, don't do that because you don't really like it or you don't trust it. But often I come off stage and go, oh my God, I forgot that joke I really like. And I don't know why that would be unless that I'm so happy with it that it's not nagging in my brain like the ones that I'm worried about. That's really annoying that your brain has done that to you.
Yeah, that is. What about, because within the subject, we've also got research. Are you a keen, maybe not a keen learner, and I suppose it's one of those where we should all probably do more, but research, do you like to be well informed, I presume? Because obviously because of your comedy, it is informed comedy, isn't it? So how important is research to you then?
Well, it's informed in that it's people in my life. So I would say in my comedy, not at all informed. I may talk about, I do political comedy. I might do online, like give opinions. And I do feel I'm not well informed enough often. But I'm angry. So that overrides being informed, which seems to be the norm at the moment. Let your anger override your knowledge of what you're talking about. But then I might go, right, no, I really need to. So I'll listen to podcasts. I'll listen to different views or read different articles and go, right, so what is this thing in politics that I'm so annoyed about? And let me understand it. But in stand-up, no. And funnily enough, when I thought about an idea for a book that just because I was very interested, my grandmother and her sister, who were from Tipperary, and they left Tipperary, Clonmel and Tipperary, used to run a little shop, their parents did, and they left in 1923, which is very much Civil War time. And they went to Belfast, which was unusual for Catholics to be moving north at that time. So I thought, I wonder if something happened. And then when I was reading just general stories about the Civil War, I thought there was stories of people, if you ran a shop, it was often a good way for different factions to send messages. Or you could go in and pick up a parcel that might contain bullets, or, you could give information to say, we'll be doing an ambush here. So in my head, I had them involved in stuff like this. And then I was like, well, you have to do a lot of research. And then I was like, that seems quite hard work. And I did then go, because I do like historical novels, but I think, God, they would have had to read for a year to really know what they're talking about. But then I thought, But I'm only reading the subject as enjoying a historical novel. Maybe they don't know what they're talking about. How do I know? If people will go, yes, I did a lot of research. You know, a historian might read it and go, oh, Jesus, they know absolutely nothing. You know, so maybe I'm thinking it's harder than it needs to be. But that thing of research always sounds quite nice. But you go, but unless you can afford to take a year off to just read books, that's quite a lot of time, isn't it? I don't think I know how to do research. I picture people making notes, and I go, well, I don't know what I'd be making notes about. I'm not remembering things.
That's exactly it. It's a bit like how, you know, I'll say to my wife occasionally, oh, I wish I could have been, and she says, no, you think you would, what you want is you would have liked to have acted the role of that in something like Howard's Way. She knows me quite well. Although,
Yes.
I have recently, I've done exactly this because my granddad, who was a lovely man, had an absolute hatred for Tommy Handley from It's That Man Again, or ITMA.
Yes.
Genuinely hated the man. And so I was just looking into this, and he would leave the room if people mentioned Handley and, you know, despise the man. And then I discovered through doing just a little bit of light research that Tommy Handley lived on the same street as my grandfather in Liverpool. And the next thing I know, I'm getting this delivered in the post from 1959.
Oh, wow.
Just to see if there's anything in there that could explain this absolute hatred. You never know. It's one bit of research I'm not going to mind, but not much.
But was your dad in the business? Your granddad, I mean.
He was up until World War II. But after that, stopped completely. Before that, he used to do a variety act. But after World War II, he drove a bus, but despised Handley, and I'd love to know why.
So he could have come across him then.
Oh, it's quite possible. Geographically, it makes sense that they would have done.
Yeah. What a strange person to dislike so much.
Oh, Tommy Handley. I mean, there's got to be a reason, you'd hope.
And wasn't it his daughter or granddaughter that was then in Magpie or Blue Peter? She was a children's entertainer.
Ah, no, that's Jenny Handley. So no, you're thinking of Jimmy Handley. So I made this mistake originally. You've got Handley and Handley. It's where the research comes in, you see.
Well, who's Jimmy Handley then? Because in my head, he's the man from the radio shows.
Jimmy Handley was also northern, quite short, and he did a stint on Crossroads and was sacked for annoying Noel Gordon.
Well, now we've got the ghost of the Handleys haunting us because you froze on me then.
Yeah.
You know what?
Obviously trying to stop you giving away some family secrets.
There's something like that. Well, between the Handleys and everything else, my God. Well, here we are in our second location, still in the great outdoors and still with our guest president, Jo Caulfield. And our second set of numbers are
7, 9, 6,
796. 796. And that means the subject is athletic and outdoor sports and games.
Oh yeah, this is right up my street, this.
Well, come on, in terms of knowledge, you can beat me on this one. However, Jo, football.
I like football, yes. I follow football as an entertainment. I love football. I could pretty much watch any. I don't, but I think if I start watching any sport, like if snooker's on the telly, if golf is on the telly, anything apart from cricket. Although I did when they had the one-day cricket where it was all very quick. I was like, oh, now I'm getting it. I quite like it. But at the same time, it's a complete waste of your life. So I limit myself. There was some amazing snooker that I watched. And I was like, oh, my God, this is so good. But that's 3 hours, of sitting, just watching. So I don't know how people do it. So I don't. Because I think it's not productive. But I do, so I'm allowed football. That would be my one thing. Yeah, even horse racing. Horses are so beautiful, and then you go, oh, I could really get in. I could see the being in a pub watching horse racing as a nice way to spend your time, but only maybe if you're 80 and you go, really, I'm allowed to rest now, and I'm just going to do this. So I think I weirdly have there's a lot of things that I won't allow myself to do because it just seems like you're just wasting your life now just watching this. And I don't partake in any sport apart from sort of being healthy in that I go to the gym and I walk, and I might run occasionally, but I have no hand and eye coordination at all. I remember thinking it was a romantic thing when I first got together with my husband, and I bought bat and balls for us to use on the beach, and I thought this will be really fun. I've seen this in films, and my husband refused to play with me because he said, there's no point. You're so bad. There's just no point. And then we tried to do table tennis, and to me, the point of table tennis is to try and keep it in the air as much as possible, to keep it going, the rally. And my husband's slamming it all over the place. And I'm like, who plays like that? And he goes, everyone who plays table tennis, apparently. That's what you do. You try to win. And I was like, well, I can't play like that at all. And he said, well, you can't play, can you? And then I did play with his family, and his mother, who is 90, at the time she was 91, she's even older now, beat me at table tennis. And she wasn't moving, she was just standing, just having really good hand and eye coordination. So I can't do that. But I think beautiful football is beautiful to watch, and I love the soap opera of it, of teams. That's what I do. Like, people will go, who do you support? And I will say football, because I don't understand if the players change, if the manager changes. Sometimes they even change where it is. I don't know what you're now supporting, apart from that you come from this town, and I don't come from any town. So I have favourites, and I even love stadiums. Like where I live in Edinburgh, there's 2 great stadiums and 2 good football teams. I know you're not allowed to support both Hearts and Hibs, but I would say yes, I do. More Hibs because I can hear them from my garden. I live in Leith. But they're very community, and I feel there's something romantic. See, I was in Wolverhampton and on a match day, and seeing people walking in scarves from all directions of the town to converge on a stadium is something just very romantic about it, something very atmospheric and nostalgic and lovely, beautiful. But I don't feel the same because there was rugby in Edinburgh yesterday, or Scotland were playing. That doesn't move me at all. I'm just annoyed by those people. That doesn't get me.
But it's really interesting, because I was just thinking, so why are you so into sport? And my automatic thing would be to think, well, there must be something in you that's competitive. But then you're saying it's about the whole sort of holistic thing of it. And it sounds a bit sort of like almost hauntological. It's all connected with people and
Hauntological?
all that. Is it? So what is it that attracts you? I'm really curious now.
I think it is people. I think it's the tribalness of it, the gathering together of people. I ended up doing actually a routine about this because my husband's also very into football, and me trying to learn my languages, and then being really annoyed because he doesn't learn at all. And then I realised, he doesn't have to, because he speaks the international language of football. And you can just go into a bar wherever and I really particularly like it, World Cup or Euros, to be not in Britain, and go into a bar and there's people from all over the world supporting all different countries, and everyone does just, But my husband, he's like, you're not speaking Spanish, you're just naming football players. And then people think it's a conversation, and he'll go up somebody's top. He'll go, oh, that's such and such a top. Who do you support? Especially if it's like a Spanish or Italian team or Portugal. And then again, now they're having some sort of semi-conversation. So it's a great way of people communicating. And then, and there are wonderful characters in football teams and in football, and the way things can change for players. Like McTominay, who was at Man United, now being in Naples, and he's just blossomed, and you see that difference in players with different managers and different places. And I was hearing this interview, and it was a journalist, an Italian sports journalist, saying how much people love him in Naples. And they said that he's become one of us because he started talking about different tomatoes. And that's a very Neapolitan thing. You know, he's going, oh, the tomatoes are great here, and there's this type and that type. And they're going, they were all like really proud, going, he's one of us now. He's talking about tomatoes. You know, so it's a very rich world, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
That's accessible to everybody. And at different levels. You don't have to know that much to enjoy it.
Yeah, I suppose I can see. Yeah.
It is, when you said it's an international language, people do use it as a shortcut in to difficult communication. My dad was in Turkey some years ago, and I think Marmaris, and they were walking down a road filled with restaurants, and you know what it's like, they're all yelling at you to come in.
Yeah.
And one of them heard my dad say something, and he pointed at him and he went, Liverpool. And my dad went, no, not Liverpool. And the guy went, Everton? He went, no, Tranmere Rovers. And the guy went, Tranmere Rovers? Second division. Murphy's having a rough season, aren't we?
Oh,
My
amazing.
dad went, what the hell? How the hell? So presumably it's part of their job. They sit there and they learn the Premier League, or well, not the Premier League. That's you know,
Yeah.
they must just get it all off by heart so they can talk to anybody about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that happened to us in a restaurant in Lisbon. That's when they hear the accent, and with my husband, because he's Scottish and that, and so then they'll just name Scottish players. And my husband said, "This is just so random, the players." And he goes, "Yeah, I can almost tell where the people he spoke to are from last time, because that's, you know, it was someone like, what's it like?" You know, something like Inverness Caledonia Thistle or something obscure. And he was going, wow, imagine knowing that player. It's like, you're Tranmere Rovers guy. You must have talked to someone who supports Tranmere Rovers. It's great. Yeah.
So there's a universal thing. I'd honestly never thought about this before. But what about at school? Were you sporty at school, though? Or was that...
I was sporty, but again, the hand and eye thing, not good. So if it was like running, I was quite good. I ran for Derbyshire, 800 metres. But again, I think because it's just simple, all you have to do, you just keep going. And I think because I was sort of tall and looked athletic and I could do the running, there would be, you know, people would, like games teachers would think that I would be good. And then they would like put me in a team and then like, oh, she's really rubbish. Like I would be in the hockey team when the good player was not able to play, then I would go in. But it was, it wasn't very good, and I would just get bored, and then because I'd be stuck out on this wing for hours doing nothing. And then also netball I really hated, because you just have to run around next to somebody marking them. And I just absolutely hated it. I was like, what's this is, I couldn't. Yeah, it was a big horror when I'd done something wrong, and so I got marked foul or something. You go, oh, foul, and I just went, oh, to the games teacher. I went, oh, piss off, and it was a huge furore, and it was like, well, that's very unsportsmanlike, and I just, it's not for me. You know, I don't like rules. I don't like being told what to do. And also I'm not very good at it. So what's the point? I used to like rounders because it was running. So I like that bit, but I could never hit. So I couldn't catch. So, you know, I wasn't good at anything. If someone else could bat it and then I could run, and that would be all right. But so I felt it was like, you know, and people start like it's fun. You know, people go, let's have a fun rounders game. Let's all go to the park. But in the end, it gets competitive, and I know they'll turn on me because I'm shit at it.
Last time I played rounders in the park, as I recall, because I have a similar issue. I was great at running. I was absolutely fantastic. Ideally in a straight line, absolutely fine, like a dog essentially. But with rounders, the running bit was fine. But as I remember it now, I took the bat with me by mistake, and then someone shouted, "Throw it back!" So I didn't look, and I just hurled it and I broke someone's shin.
Oh my God, yeah, you see, it's all dangerous. It starts as fun and it ends in tears.
Isn't it? Well, here we are, a third set of numbers and a third and final ramble with our guest president, Jo Caulfield. And those numbers are
8, 1, 9,
819, 819, and that means the subject is not used. Which happens sometimes, Jo, when we don't know why, but all of a sudden there'll just be a number and it's not used or no longer accessible. So we go to the top, which means that generally what we're talking about is literature, which is a nice and open thing, literature. I suppose what you're doing is you're working as a storyteller, aren't you? When it comes to comedy, it's very much little miniature works of literature, aren't they, with character and plot and all that sort of thing.
It is. And, if I wanted to be pompous, I would go, yes, it is. But it's like, it's a bit, jokes are a story and like a book. Something has to happen in them, and there has to be a start and then the thing that happens and then the end of the thing that happens, which is where hopefully they laugh. And then it can be very short or it can be much longer and be an actual story, which it took me ages to do things that were longer because I was frightened of that silence when you're telling a story, because you've got to give lots of information, and this happened and then this happened and you're describing, and it was only then when I realized, but the longer they're with you, when there is the release of the punchline at the end of the story, it's huge. So it was, then I went, then it is okay. I think I can do this because I get a bigger reward at the end. But it was quite scary because I just thought, I don't know if people will follow it, but they will do if you're doing like a festival show that's an hour, or if you're doing a tour show, they'll follow you. Still in a 20-minute set, to tell a story is a risk because they would, in a club setting, because their brains are just very programmed that this will be quick. And you can see them go, she's still talking about the same thing. This is weird. They can feel the different rhythm of it. So it would have to be one where I go, right, they're really, really on board. Let's go with this. Because even to stay on the same subject matter, like I do have a story, but there's lots and lots, which is maybe 6 minutes. But there's lots of jokes along the way. But it is one subject. So I don't think they realize that it's one subject on that. But other times you can sort of feel it with them. Yeah.
Going to get people going, well, if I'd realised I was supposed to focus, I would have paced my drinking better.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other thing. You can't make them in that setting. You can't make them work too hard. Like you say, who was that? Was that Auntie? Which auntie was that? Who's she talking about? You can't have it to go. Otherwise, people will give up. You can see them go, she's too hard, I'm out.
Yeah. I need the book we had earlier with all of the family trees.
Exactly. Yeah, she's given her some sort of literary aids to this. But I've got like that actually myself a bit. I think maybe that's getting older, isn't it? Where you give up on books. You go, do you know what? I'm just going to stop. I'm not enjoying it. Or you've made it too hard. I'm giving up. Whereas I think I would have ploughed on and gone, well, I didn't enjoy any of that, even though the signs were there early on. But now I don't.
No, it's that thing where you feel obliged to finish a book that you've started, even though that doesn't make sense because you're just going to waste more of your. But if I pick up a novel and go, this looks interesting, and there's a family tree at the back and a glossary at the front, the glossary at the back, I go, no, that's too much like hard work. Again, coming here for entertainment, no. I'm not learning 3 family trees of fictional families to enjoy your novel. Go away.
You do see that on novels where you go, this isn't a highbrow novel. Are you trying to make it look more than it is? Give it substance by exactly that. You're going, this is too much information for what I'm reading in this book.
Yeah, just get me to the bit where they shag. That's all I mean.
Yeah, who kills who? Who's getting the money? Yeah.
I contemplated very briefly the other day buying the original Poldark book because I thought, because it had a lovely BBC photo on the front, but then I realised it was volume 1 of 8, and I thought, I cannot commit to that. That's far too much.
I've never read them. I did watch that original series with my mum as a kid. I remember watching it and absolutely loving it, but I couldn't say who wrote them or. Yeah.
Nor can I now. And I was looking at his name. Winston something. I can remember Robin Ellis played him, but I can't. Oh.
And did he write lots of other things?
He wrote an awful lot of other things as well, but it was mostly when he got onto Poldark, suddenly you've got this whole run of books. I mean, about 8 volumes, and some of them are chunky buggers as well.
Wow, yeah, a lot goes on. I will tend to do that if I do find someone I like. I'll gorge on them. I did that with Patricia Highsmith, where I had to stop, and I went, "No, this is enough now," because I just love the fact that her characters are so horrible most of the time, but in a likable way. And then I did my leg in recently, tore a muscle, so I had to sort of rest. And I read all of the Ripley books again, which I probably hadn't read since I was in my late 20s, I might have read. And just absolutely loved them. Yeah, they're just great and immoral, fabulous, Because, he's a lovely murderer. He's clearly a sociopath, but so... likable, yeah. And I thought, what a great character to write. Just fantastic. And he's got great taste in everything as well. Like as a sort of lifestyle. I go, oh my God, his pajamas are perfect. And the way he's doing it up his house in France, you're like, oh my God, he's just great. What a lovely life. Yeah. But it's only he didn't kill people. Yeah.
A bit like James Bond in that respect, isn't it?
Yeah, although he's very much, obviously it wasn't said at the time, but you do clearly go, oh, he's clearly gay. The subtext in it, which I didn't see at all the first time I read them. But he has this very beautiful wife who goes away a lot. He takes great care to buy her fabulous things. And it's all just clearly, and he said, she's the only woman that I could be with, because, you don't like women, do you? So, yeah.
I've done that with Ian Banks, was the first author I did that with. And that was purely because I wanted to impress my now wife. It was literally because I wasn't much of a reader. And then she told me about his book, The Crow Road, which remains an absolute favourite, with its opening line of, it was the day my grandmother exploded. I mean, that was just such a good line. And I think I read that, then The Wasp Factory, and then I worked my way through a good 6 or 7 books, purely to impress. But that voice, his voice became so familiar, that author's voice. And I think there's such a coziness when you find a voice that just... rings in your head. It's got that John LeMessurier quality. It's just a lovely familiarity.
That's the best voice to have in your head always, isn't it? Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. But are there any particular authors who remain like that from your childhood, Jo?
Well, there's some people that you're made to read, isn't there, at school? And I think we did Mill on the Floss, George Eliot, and then I later, only maybe during COVID, read Middlemarch and loved it because I was like, I didn't realize it was funny. The main character, is it Dorothy? Can't remember her name, but bitchy in a funny way, and also something that women really like. The very beautiful woman who's really stupid, and the man who falls in love with her and she even writes this because her eyelashes did the really lovely thing when she smiled. And then when he marries her, she ruins his life because she's an idiot and really selfish and horrible. So that it's, very satisfying. But weirdly also in that book, which I am interested in, there's a lot of stuff about town planning, which I was like, oh, this is really interesting, because he was wanting to build cottages and have sanitation for workers on estates and things, and it was like building model villages and things like that. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I didn't think. So then I read more of her, and it's always hard, isn't it, when people say, but I know I do get very into, then I'll read someone, or books that, it's a very small book, but this stayed with me because my sister who passed away, she really liked the Moomins. And she even went to Finland and I didn't realize that, whatever her name is, I never remember,
Tove Jansson.
Yeah, Tove Jansson. I didn't realize she wrote adult books. And somebody, a very good friend of my sister's, said, oh, you should read. And I read one book, and then there was a small book. And it was about an older lady. It's so beautiful, and it's really small, but it's an older woman, grandmother. And they obviously have, a bit like they do in Sweden, I think, and Denmark, little tiny islands where you can have a summer house. But it's not fancy, and most people might have one. And so there's great descriptions of this, the summer house. And then it's a grandmother doing things with her granddaughter. But what I loved was the granddaughter, weirdly, who's only like 5 or something. There's one story, and I thought, God, that really reminds me of Annie, my sister. The granddaughter has this friend that she loves because she has beautiful hair. And she just loves her friend because she likes to bring her around and show off how beautiful her friend's hair is. And so she says to the granny, can she come and stay on the island? And the granny does say, well, it's not for everybody, because it's a bit rough and it's not for everybody. And she went, no, but my friend's so perfect. She's absolutely perfect. And she brings her friend to the island. And the friend doesn't cope well on the island, and they go swimming, and the friend doesn't want to go swimming, and she's like, why? She goes, well, I've never been in the sea. So she's like going off the friend now, and then she makes her go in the sea, and of course when she comes out of the sea, her hair looks terrible. And so the little girl just goes right off her, and she goes, oh, she's no good, no fun, they can't do anything. And now she looks awful as well. I don't know why. It really made me think, God, I could so imagine my sister being exactly like that, because she would be like that. She'd have crushes on people and go mad for them, and then go, oh no, I've gone right off them now because I found out such and such about them. But I just thought it was really, and it's a very beautiful relationship because the grandmother knows that she's dying, so there's elements of that sort of thing. So yeah, I think books, when books really touch you, and that's what you're looking for. And I don't know if that becomes harder as you get older. You're reading, going, yeah, this is fun, but I read, not to diss her at all, Sally Rooney books, because people reading them. I'm like, I get why young women like them, but for me, it's nothing. It's about that very adolescent time in your life, and there's a lot about sex and things that you go, do you know what? They're not that important. Like in 30 years' time, you'll go, this is really not that important. So it's finding things that stay with you forever, that you would go, oh, wow, there's something about that. I like books that you think about afterwards. I think that's what I'm looking for, something that you can put down and go, oh, wow, that was really worth reading. And I think that might be you go a bit more to non-fiction getting older, that, like history books and things, or life stories and stuff like that. You're quite, all sorts of life stories can be of, people who've succeeded in any sort of life to, it's interesting how they do things and what decisions they make becomes interesting. But I'm always looking for asking people, who's a novelist, that's worth reading, that I won't go, oh, I don't care, because it would start a lot, don't you, and go, oh, these characters, who gives a shit about them? I don't care. Yeah.
And we're out of time. Oh.
She goes, literature, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Well, here we are back in the shed. Our rambles for now are ended. And Jo Caulfield, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure rambling with you today. That was wonderful. Thank you.
I've loved it. I didn't know what to expect, and I've absolutely loved it. It's been brilliant.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has for us. So thank you, Jo. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to everyone for listening at home, and we really hope that you enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
The club meets every Friday. If you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch on the contact form on the website.
We're on Twitter at Slattery Live. Please feel free to use the hashtag TSLC to discuss any of this week's topics.
I'm sort of on Twitter at Paul Carmichael V, but I'm mostly at Blue Sky, Paul Carmichael UK, and you can find Rambling Club on Blue Sky as well.
And Tony also has a Facebook group at www.facebook.com/group/TheTonySlattery.
And he's on Instagram at Tony_Slattery_official.
And if people want to find this week's guest president, Jo Caulfield, on the social media sites, how do they do that, Jo?
I'm on all of them as well. I'm on Blue Sky, Jo Caulfield. I'm on Instagram, which is weird, my Instagram, because it's jo.caulfield1. And I'm also on Threads, Jo Caulfield Comic, and TikTok, Jo Caulfield Comic. Oh, and I also have written a book, a memoir about my sister and I growing up called The Funny Thing About Death, which sounds, it's a hard sell because it is about death, but it is funny. And all of the royalties are going to Macmillan Cancer Support.
Oh, wonderful. We will make sure. There will be a link. If you look in the description for this episode, you'll find a link so you can get straight to a copy of that. Thanks, Jo.
And if people want to join the Rambling Club for themselves, Paul, how do they do that?
Well, the club is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what you can do is you can head to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live. We'd be delighted to welcome you, and you can find all sorts of perks for members there. You can hear episodes in advance. You can hear a special podcast, which is ourselves and lovely Mark Hutchinson, Tony's partner, and all sorts of things about our lovely Tony as well. So head over to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live and take a look.
And if you've enjoyed us talking to guest president Jo Caulfield about literature this week, we hope you'll book an appointment to come and listen to us next week. And in the meantime, why not go to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a lovely review with 5 stars? Wouldn't that be novel? You could tell the world that you've given us your hard backing.
Oh. Very good.
Excellent.
Oh, brilliant. So we will be back again next week for another ramble, next Friday at 5 to 5, and we hope that you'll join us again. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from a colleague, Mr. Allan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it is a goodbye and a thank you so much to our wonderful guest president this week, Jo Caulfield. Goodbye.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest president, Jo Caulfield. She was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. Acting President Caulfield was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Allan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Michael Livesley and Andy Frissell. Silly Voices are by Michael Livesley, and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Dybing, and the show's researcher is Sole Carmichael. The show's producers are Erik Lear and Mark Hutchinson, and the program was edited by Harry Carmichael. The series executive producer is Mark Strixen. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Fanfanitel production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.